Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review YouTube channel. My name is Paul. This is your Breakfast Tyne show, and a little bit of reaction to what Eddie Howe has had to say this morning ahead of the game at Brighton. Of course, that is tomorrow afternoon. What injuries do we have? Who is available? Who is not available? Etc. Eddie went through pretty much everything this morning to bring us up to date with the squad news. As usual, please do give the show a like if you enjoy it, and of course subscribe if you are new around here and you like what you see. And of course, super chats are available, which is the $ at the bottom of the live comments. That guarantees your comment to be read out live on the show. Eddie Howe spoke to the media this morning. And, well, he was in good spirits, put it that way. It seems like everybody has come back fit and well from international duty. The one thing that I did pick up on early doors was it was reported, of course, that Joe Linton and Bruno had to turn back on their flight, of course, when they first went away on international duty. That doesn't seem to be the case with Bruno. It was only Joe Linton. So I don't know... I guess, you know, the speculation was that they travelled together, and that was the issue. But it was just Joe Linton, unfortunately, who did have to turn back and catch another flight over to South Korea, of course, for Brazil. But he's come back. Now, Brazil did say that there was a slight injury problem with Joe Linton. However, Eddie has stated this morning that Joe's back and says he's fit. It was a groin problem again that was rumoured that was the problem with Joe Linton. So, you know what? I don't think he's 100% anyway over that injury that he had. And I think a lot of people have been speculating on that since the start of the season because we haven't really seen Joe Linton at 100% at the minute for me when we've seen him on the pitch. He seems a little short of the physicality, pace-wise, things like that. But that's just me. That's just me speculating as a Newcastle United fan, watching him week in, week out. So, look, it is what it is with Joe Linton. Jacob Ramsey is fit and will be in the squad tomorrow. So that's good news as well. Now, again, you know, Joe Linton hasn't been at the top of his game. So does that mean that Eddie might give a start to Jacob Ramsey tomorrow? Because he was asked again about the travelling and all that kind of stuff for international duty. The players that have been, you know, across the world really in such a short space of time. Does he leave anybody out? Look, we've seen it before with Bruno. It's highly doubtful that he'll leave Bruno out for such a big, important game at Brighton. However, with Joe Linton, that maybe he's on the bench and he starts Jacob Ramsey. He can always get an hour out of Ramsey and bring Big Joe on. He has that option, or he may do it the other way around. But certainly, given the game and the difficulty of going to the Amex, Newcastle United know all about going to the Amex and how difficult it is. We struggle against Brighton, and we've struggled against Brighton for a long time in the Premier League, even way before Eddie stepped in. I think we've only beaten them once in the Premier League, which is an astounding statistic, really, when you look at it. You know, Brighton over the years, they've always seemed to have a good team, though, Brighton. Let's be fair. They always seem to be, you know, whatever happens when they lose players or anything like that, they always recruit well. They've got a good manager down there and they play really good football. And I think Eddie alluded to that numerous times this morning, that it's not going to be a very easy game. And talking about last time, getting a point down there, it was a very important point, which led to, of course, us qualifying for the Champions League if we didn't get that point at Brighton. But then again, you can say that about any game, can't you? You know, if we didn't win that, or we didn't get a draw there, or we didn't win that one away, we wouldn't have been in the Champions League because it was that close. So you can say that about any game, to be fair. Now, one thing I want to pick up on before going to the majority of Eddie's comments this morning is Louise Taylor. Now look, Louise Taylor, you know, before she even asked a question, Eddie was laughing because she said some. I didn't catch what it was. But I think it was towards the line of asking a really far-out question, and it wasn't anything to do with tomorrow's game. She asked a question regarding the trip to Marseille, which is at the end of November. So we've got all these games coming up and another international break, and she brings up the travel for Newcastle fans to the Marseille game. Now, this is a press conference for Brighton tomorrow in the Premier League. A huge game for Newcastle United. And she goes and asks a ridiculous question about Marseille and do you think the fans will be allowed to travel? Because the last time, the last time they played in the Champions League, the fans, the away fans were banned with just 3 days before the game, and Eddie didn't even answer it in the end. It was the other guy who's with him, the media guy, stepped up and answered. And I'm sitting there thinking, why do they persist on having this woman in the press conferences? Because to be honest, I'm yet to hear a question from Louise Taylor, which is a valid, decent question that we all want answers from the manager from. And Eddie looked so perplexed, as if to say, Jesus Christ, why is this woman in here again? This has nothing to do with me as a manager. It has nothing to do with me dictating whether Newcastle United fans are allowed to go to the Marseille game. And, the answer came from the media guy, as of now, Newcastle United fans are very welcome to travel to the game. It had nothing to do with the game tomorrow, nothing to do with the squad, nothing to do with Eddie. And look, she just doesn't belong there. She doesn't belong in any press conference at all, because as soon as that woman opens her mouth, unfortunately, it's a load of cow shite that comes out. It's not words. It's shite that should be in a sewer, washed away. It's ridiculous. And you can see on Eddie's face, every time it comes to Louise Taylor, Eddie's like bracing himself, saying, oh, what the fuck is this woman going to come out with now? And yet again, she did not let us down, talking about a game that isn't till the end of fucking November. What is this woman on, man? Seriously. Get her out of there. Get her out and don't allow her back in. If she wants to ask ridiculous questions like that, go and ask Sunderland manager. Go down to Weir side and ask him in a press conference most ridiculous, sodden questions you've ever heard in your life. Get a grip, man. She shouldn't be there. Simple as. Now, Eddie did say that this group of games will be potentially a defining period of the season for us. This will set us up one way or another, and we need to be as aggressive as we can to take as many points as possible. Now, of course, we've been asking the question recently about, Eddie Howe and, has he changed his philosophy on going into these games? Is it a question of, well, let's go into the game and make sure we don't lose? And make sure we come away with something, because he did allude to that point last season. We got at the Amex has been very important, but like I said earlier, come on, it doesn't. That should not matter, because a point in one game we won. If we didn't win any of the games that we won, we wouldn't be in the Champions League. So we've got it's a completely separate entity tomorrow, a completely separate entity, and Eddie's going to go into this game, and I think he'll play pretty much a similar side to what turned out against Nottingham Forest. I don't think there'll be many changes in that side tomorrow. And he did talk about momentum for international breaks, which I'll come on to a bit later, because the system is, the setup's changing next year for the international break. I didn't realise that. There's going to be 3 weeks off in September. So that's, listen, we'll see what happens with that. I'm gonna read into that a little bit more, because I wasn't aware that was happening. Borky sent in a super chat. Thanks, mate. Replace Louise Taylor with Lady Sam. Proper fan. Absolutely. She just, as soon as she starts talking, I think everybody just dips their head and go, oh, for fuck's sake. And, all the other journalists in there just probably put their head down and, oh, that's how you react. That's how I react. Never mind the journalists in there. As soon as I go, and Louise, I'm like, oh, God, here we go. And then she never disappoints. Absolutely never. But yeah, Eddie, has he changed his philosophy? I don't know. But, I think we're good enough to go down there and go to win the game. The way we've been playing before the international break, it was starting to click. Lots of nice interaction passing, quick passing, first-time passing, very quick on the break, etc. And that's what we want to see. That's what we know we're good at. But if we sit back and let teams come onto us, we get punished by it. Now, team news ahead of tomorrow, he says, I think everybody has come back okay. A little concern over Joe Linton, but we think he's okay. We will see how he trains. Jacob Ramsey had a couple of sessions, didn't want to push him too much, but he's trained in the international break and looked very good, and we're pleased where he is now. Lewis Hall, his second scan was good news, and we think he'll be back during this period of games before the next international break. And I thought, wow, that's really good news, because we need some good news on the injury front, don't we? And finally we get some. It'll be great to have Lewis Hall back, and he did say he's a very important player in this squad. He did mention Dan Burn and the performances at left back. Look, I think everybody knows that, myself and others on this channel, we don't really fancy Dan Burn at left back. And, Eddie sat there this morning and said he's done really well. Now, yes, he's done well, okay? Because we've kept clean sheets in certain games, but he has looked vulnerable. But Eddie's not going to sit and say that in a press conference. He's not going to sit there and say, yeah, Dan's looked a bit vulnerable at left back. He's been beaten a few times. Of course he's going to big Dan Burn up. He needs to, because he knows Dan Burn's going to be very important there until Lewis Hall is fully fit. And they will take their time over Lewis Hall. They're not going to rush him. No way will they rush Lewis Hall back anytime soon. So the fact is he's going to be available in this section of games, providing everything goes okay with his recovery. But Dan Burn is going to play a big part there at left back. There's no doubt he'll be left back tomorrow. So we've just got to support Dan Burn. And we've got to come to the conclusion that we know that there is some downfalls of playing Dan Burn at left back, because pace-wise, he's going to get burnt. But I think if you look at the games that he's played there this season, Botman has been very switched on to come across and cover. Anthony Gordon's come back and helped out as well. So I think, as long as he's got cover there, we should be okay. But when he's one-on-one with pace, that's when we are in a little bit of trouble. If Minter plays there tomorrow, he's going to have a hell of a job trying to keep up with him. But he's experienced. And experience counts for a lot. Botman is there to cover him as well, like I say. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But listen, I don't want Dan Burn at left back. I don't think anybody does. But at the minute, at this present time, I think, we've got no choice, really. Trulls has gifted 5 Toon Review memberships. Thank you very much, Trulls. Very, very, very kind, my friend. Thank you so much for that. Now, he did talk about Tino Livramento and Johan Wissa. And this is what he initially said. Tino is out of the brace now. No massive changes to the time frame that he was given, but he is feeling positive. Johan's had his first time on the grass with us, which was great to see. We need to step him up gradually. I know he is desperate to get out and show his worth, but it's one step at a time. Now, obviously, there was a couple of questions about Wissa this morning towards Eddie, especially with the international African Nations Cup coming up and things like that. He was asked about Alan Shearer's comments, and he said, I haven't read Alan Shearer's comments. And he didn't really want to get into the discussion of the African nations. He was pretty clear on that, that he's not going to have those discussions in front of the cameras, as it would be unfair to Johan himself. And look, he's very pragmatic when it comes to that. Do I think that deep down there's been conversations had? Yes, I do. Of course I do. They're not going to leave this decision until the last minute, because it's unfair on every party involved. But the thing is that he's still got this knee problem. He's on the grass, and hopefully, they build him up to making a return. It's still as is with him. There's going to be no earlier comeback for Wissa as things stand. He is still injured. So don't expect him back anytime soon. But obviously, the space between getting him fit, then getting him match fit, and then the start of the African nations, are we going to see much of him? I don't know. But he has to make a decision himself, whether he wants to go. Newcastle could turn around and say, well, he's still injured, so we're not sending an injured player away for international duty. He's going to stay here and continue his rehabilitation. But you just don't know what's going to happen. But when he was asked about the African nations, he just shut it down and said that I'm not having those conversations at all. He was asked a lot about Ross Wilson, obviously, because it's the first press conference that we've seen Eddie since the appointment of Ross Wilson, and he was very optimistic about what Ross will bring to the role. He's relieved now that they've finally got a director of football in place, because he said, I've made it quite clear that it is very important to have a sporting director in the setup. Now we have a full setup. Let's see what we can do as a team, and let's see what Ross can do to take the club forward. He was asked about the contract situation and with the likes of Toon Army, Botman, etc., and he simply turned around and said, well, that is Ross's job. Ross is going to look at them, and he says, I'm sure he's already sat down and taken a look at the contract situation and who's looking to have new contracts, etc. And you know what? I was very pleased with the answer. He's very positive about Ross Wilson coming in and what he can do and take a load of work off Eddie Howe, which obviously Eddie Howe was doing jobs in the summer that he really, really didn't want to do. That was quite clear. So I think, all the positivity he's putting out now, he's in a good place himself. The backroom staff are in a good place. Things are moving along very nicely now. And I think, Eddie made it quite clear that Ross Wilson will be taking control of contracts and things like that. And a lot of other things. Ross Wilson's job is huge, by the way. I know kind of the press have immediately said, oh, what's Ross Wilson been doing in the opening few days of his job, and as if the major pressure's on already. But I don't think anybody needs to put any pressure on Ross Wilson, because Wilson's job is huge. And director of football, coming from a team like Forest and Rangers before that, he's now stepping into a huge club with huge aspirations here. Probably bigger aspirations than what Forest had and certainly what Rangers had. But he's got a lot more opportunity to be successful here than he has anywhere else. And again, we'll see by 6-12 months down the line where we stand with Ross Wilson. How has his relationship been with Eddie, etc. He's already said, Eddie, that they've had meetings together. They've gone very well. And everybody seems to be on the right page. Now, obviously, it's very early days for Ross Wilson and certainly his relationship with Eddie Howe. But again, it's one of those things that we have to just see how it forms. Hopefully, we don't see any problems of the past and everything stays on target. And, we see Ross. I don't want to really hear from Ross Wilson, if I'm openly honest. I don't think that's a director of football's job to, liaise with the fans. I want to see Ross Wilson get these contract extensions sorted, see what he does in the transfer market, see what he does with the academy. It's a big, big job. And, Eddie said himself that he feels that Ross Wilson is the perfect man to go ahead with this. Anthony says, anyone else noticed that BS spout at talk site earlier about Toon Army is too good to stay at Newcastle? Listen, I heard that and I switched off. I can't be arsed with that bullshit anymore. It's the same all the time. These players are too good for Newcastle. No, these players should be honoured to play for Newcastle, should be honoured to play for a club like us and represented by us, the fans. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. Ian says, Wilson and Eddie are friends, Paul. Don't think there will be an issue. Yeah, I mean, Eddie did say that he does know Ross. But I think he was alluding to the fact during that little bit that he spoke about him that he was staying away from the friendship side of things and more concentrating on what each other's jobs are and, how well they perform together as a team. And certainly alongside the CEO, David Hopkinson, let's just see how the three of them form this team, how they form behind the scenes and grow this club into what we know it can be. And where really the club want to be as well. Let's not forget that. The club want to be as high up as possible. They want to be the elite. So we just, again, let's just see how it forms and enjoy the fruition of what is hopefully a fantastic partnership between Eddie and Ross Wilson. Paul J says the Wissa situation is not sitting right with me. I think he will go to AFCON and then get injured again. I mean, you're looking down the line there. It's hypothetical, isn't it? at the moment. James says the club channel anti-Semitic. The club channel anti-Semitic around Newcastle United again. Total our players do not be as good as they should be going to the World Cup. Okay, interesting. Now, he did, as I said, the appointment of Ross Wilson. There's a paragraph here, so I'll read it out, just covering what we've already said. I have known Ross for several years. He's been around the game for a long time and done well. Working with him now, it will be interesting to see how our relationship develops. He seems a positive person, a good person. I back Ross's appointment, and I hope we can work together well and have success. I think Ross will be a great addition. So he stays away from, the friendship with him, that he's known him for. He does say he's known him for several years, but he doesn't mention the word friends or friendship. He's very much focused on the business side of it and where that needs to stay. It's very much a work ethic that Eddie has, and he realizes that he was asked about, going through, fourth year here, and this is your third director of football. Eddie kind of laughed that off, as if to say, I'm fed up of all that. I'm just going to laugh at it, with regards to previous director of footballs. And Eddie said, I'm not looking into the past. What's the point of looking into the past? He said, I'm looking to the future and what we can build here at the football club. And I thought that was a brilliant answer. Because it's about time that we stopped looking backwards all the time, thinking, oh, yeah, but Eddie didn't get on with him, and Eddie didn't get on with him, apparently. Let's just look to the future and see what Newcastle United as a football club can do with some fantastic appointments. David Hopkinson as CEO is a real coup. It's a massive coup. And those that have followed Hopkinson's career will know what he's done in the past. Generated thousands upon thousands of pounds, millions of pounds for various franchises in America. This guy has come with a fantastic background. Now, Ross Wilson, is he the star? Is he the sort of shining light director of football that we expected to come in? The big name? Probably not. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to be a success. This is his opportunity to put his name out there and become, again, a very successful figure at Newcastle United. And working as a team. That's what Eddie was alluding to a lot in the press conference, talking about this, being a team and working hard behind the scenes. Eddie's main job is to coach the team, to get the best out of the players, to move the team up the league. And then Ross will have his own remit, as does David Hopkinson, to move this club in the right direction. And I think Eddie was very, very positive about that. Tony says Whistle was mismanaged by the DRC coaching staff last time, so I really don't trust them. I actually agree with that. I think that there is a little bit of validity to that comment because, he hadn't kicked a ball all season and then suddenly they throw him in and play him like they did. I think it was a massive risk. And, this is the problem that we have is do Newcastle United trust in the sort of Congo's coaching staff and physios, to keep him fit if he does go to the AFCON, because he hasn't played a lot of football, and if he does go to the AFCON, he is one of their main players, so they're not going to want to leave him out of the side for very long at all. So he's going to play a lot of football. So for me, it's a risk. It's a massive risk. Patrick said we tried with two top director of footballs and it didn't gel. Wilson, I believe, is perfect for what we need. Similar to Howe appointment, when media is saying we need a bigger name, this appointment will work. Patrick, I love that optimism, matey. I really do. And I think you're right. You don't necessarily have to be a massive name to be successful. And if you're good at the job, that's all that counts for me. It doesn't matter if you're a big name or not. But if you do the job and you prove to everybody that you're going to be successful at the job, then bang, get in. And I'll be perfectly happy with that. And yes, congratulations to Sam Fender, of course, winning the Mercury Prize. And yes, it will only be outdone, Yvonne, by us winning the Best Content Creator. We will see come November the 20th, won't we? Exciting times. Now, Eddie spoke about the away form because he was asked about the 3 away games so far in the Premier League, all 0-0. He said, we continue to look at it game-by-game basis. There is a lot of good in our away performance, and I back the players, I back the team. We will come good in that respect, in front of goal. There's a lot of good in our defensive structure, and that's a positive thing, going away and being defensively solid. Now, a lot of people have picked up on that comment and thought, oh, he's going 5 at the back again tomorrow. I don't think he will. Not with the left-back situation as it is. I don't know who... really playing Anthony Gordon as a left wing back doesn't work for me and won't work. I think, the way we've been playing, to be honest, I don't foresee him changing the 4 at the back because he's got something good going with the 2 centre-backs there at the minute with Botman and Chow. I think they will continue in that role. But, we do need to be better in front of goal away from home. However, we haven't really had a lot of striker options away from home this season. Villa, it was Anthony Gordon. Leeds, we just didn't have anybody. So, we've got Big Nick there now, who is on a roll. He's full of confidence. And there's going to be a lot of work for Nick Voltemada over the next few weeks. And hopefully we can manage it well. He did mention Asula, of course. Asula is carrying a little bit of an ankle injury, apparently. So I don't think he'll be in any position to start a game. So... and then he did say, well, we've played Anthony Gordon there before, and I thought, oh, no, please, no, Eddie. No. Let Anthony Gordon stay on the left wing and really keep his really good run going. That's what we want more than anything. Now, for Brighton, he said it's a team that we always have tough games against. They are well managed and coached and have some very good players in their squad. I thought we played well at their place last year, one of our better away performances, and that point ended up being so valuable for us. So again, talking about the point, that got Ramsey was mentioned, Paul. Yeah, and Ramsey is in the squad tomorrow. Mentioned that earlier on. He's definitely in the squad. Whether he plays or not, I don't know. I said maybe he starts the game, gets an hour out of him and brings Joe Linton on, or he does it vice versa. But I'm looking forward to seeing Jacob Ramsey back because I don't think we've never seen the best of Jacob Ramsey yet. To be fair, have we? He's since he's come in and got into and the times we've seen him on the pitch, we haven't seen the very best of him yet. And I think there's a lot to come from Jacob Ramsey. And given Joe Linton's form, guys, you could see this being a real opportunity for Ramsey to maybe step it up. And, the rotation is going to be important. And we've got Miley there. We've got, obviously, now Ramsey fit again. And I think they're both well ahead in the pecking order of Joe Willock. He was asked about that Joe Willock thing, by the way, about him being lost in a maze. And he had a good laugh about that. And he was saying that I did have a word with Joe very early on just to see if it was true, which I found hilarious. But Joe Willock is way down the pecking order. And for me, because he didn't really spend much time talking about Willock today, it was just like, oh, he's took it as a joke and he's and sort of left it at that. So I don't genuinely think that there's any chance of Joe Willock featuring because he's way down the pecking order. He's got Miley ahead of him now. He's got Ramsey ahead of him. Then you've got the 3 that are already there in Joe Linton, Tonali and Bruno. It's going to be extremely difficult for Joe Willock now to push himself back into the side. And he doesn't deserve it. I mean, that may sound harsh. I don't give a shit. He hasn't deserved it. He hasn't played well when he's come on or started games. And he hasn't made the impact that I think even Eddie Howe was wanting him to make. Because if you're Joe Willock and you've been given the opportunities you've been given because of suspensions and injuries, and you don't do it again, you fail to make an impression, you are not going to be anywhere near. Now, Miley's made impressions. Every time he's come on this season, he's done really well. He's playing really well. He's looking confident. He's looking mature again and improving his game week by week. Jacob Ramsey, we paid a lot of money for. We've seen what he can do at Aston Villa. We know what he's got in his locker. I think he's a better all-round player than Joe Willock as well. So, it's time to get a little bit sort of cutthroat with these players and say, right, if you're not good enough, you're not gonna be around. And if I was manager of Newcastle United, I would be looking to offload Willock in the January window. I really would. And bring in maybe another replacement, not necessarily somebody that's going to start every game, but bring in a player, a squad player who is better than Willock. There is plenty kicking about. But I don't know whether it's an attitude thing with Joe Willock. I don't know whether he's worried about picking more injuries up. I don't know what it is with Joe Willock, but he just does not perform right now and doesn't deserve. He just doesn't deserve to be ahead of Lewis Miley or Jacob Ramsey for that matter. But you know what? It was all round. I think it was a very positive press conference. It was good to see Eddie smiling again and looking really, really relaxed. By the way, the situation on Lewis Hall, if you missed it at the start, he could be back in between in this period of games, which is another real plus point for Newcastle United. Apart from that, there's no other news really that's come in apart from the press conference. You know, a lot of obviously the headlines coming in now are based on what Eddie said in his conference. No outside news on anything at the moment, but if there is, I will bring another video out today. But don't forget, we're back tonight, ladies and gents, at 7 o'clock, where we have the preview for the Brighton game. Myself, Billy, Stato, and possibly Sam will be on tonight, and we will have a look at Brighton, where their form is, what system they may play, what team they may play, and then, of course, we'll look at ours. Does Eddie make any changes, etc.? And, of course, the wonderful score predictions that we never get right. Although then again, we've done all right this season. Well, Billy and Alex have, but never go off my score predictions, guys. But thank you very much for watching this morning. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, folks. Have a blast, and we'll see you back at 7 o'clock. In the meantime, take care.
Come back and check out.